There are truths that are not easy to accept, but once recognized, they change the entire way we see the world. This is one of them. And if you have ever wondered why those closest to you suddenly become distant, perhaps the answer does not lie in them, but in the growing light within you. Carl Jung touched upon a profound layer in human nature. He realized that most of us live in silent fear, the fear of facing out the wounded, ashamed, rejected, and buried parts of ourselves. But then someone, like you, begins to awaken, begins to heal, and suddenly becomes a mirror that exposes every darkness. And that makes others uncomfortable. Not because you did something wrong, but because you no longer play the role they once assigned to you. When you change, you inadvertently trigger a psychological mechanism Jung called projection. They begin to cast upon you the parts of themselves they cannot face. You are not hated because you are wrong. You are rejected because you dared to become. Jung once wrote, "What disturbs us in others is the doorway to our own self." But not everyone is ready to step through that door. And when they lack the courage to look inward, they choose to turn their backs on the light and on you. This is the missing piece that brings clarity to everything in your relationships. Carl Jung once discovered that within each person exists a shadow, a hidden realm containing parts of personality, emotions, and desires that we have denied, suppressed, or pushed away out of fear or shame. And paradoxically, when you begin the healing journey, when you dare to set boundaries, when you no longer live to please others, when you stop shrinking yourself to fit someone else's expectations, that is precisely when you are doing the most sacred thing. You are integrating your shadow. You are no longer broken pieces. You are returning to wholeness. But for those who are still running away from their own shadow, your wholeness is like a dazzling light revealing what they dare not face. Jung said something very profound. We hate in others what we have not accepted in ourselves. Therefore, your strength can make others uneasy. Your confidence awakens doubt within them. The peace you carry makes them aware of the chaos they have learned to ignore. And the sad truth is, when you become whole, you not only carry your own light, but unintentionally you also reflect the darkness others refuse to see. But there is a hard truth, especially when you begin to awaken and embark on the healing journey. The first people to turn their backs on you are often your family and close friends. Carl Jung called this process individuation, a profound spiritual and psychological journey where you start to peel away layers of masks, breaking free from the expectations, roles, and projections of others. You no longer live to fit the mold someone else has constructed. You begin to live authentically, with all your vulnerability, strength, and truth. And the paradox is, though this process is necessary for mental well-being, it becomes a threat to those around you. Why? Because your return awakens a void within them. When you dare to be yourself, you force them to face the truth that, perhaps, they have never truly lived in alignment with their own being. You no longer play the role they need you to play. You disrupt the psychological structures they have relied on to define themselves, and so they do not truly hate you. They simply cannot bear the presence of someone who dares to live what they only quietly dream of. Your truth becomes a mirror, reflecting what they have denied. And this is precisely where Carl Jung's revolutionary insight illuminates one of the most painful phenomena in the awakening journey. Why sometimes an entire group of people turns their backs on you. Jung realized that humans do not live solely within their individual minds, but are also connected by an invisible field of energy, the collective unconscious. This is the dwelling place of psychological patterns, ancient beliefs, and social roles programmed from generation to generation. This system operates through unspoken consensus. Everyone keeps the roles assigned to them. No one questions. No one breaks the cycle. Because if one person changes, the whole system trembles. So, when you say no to the inherited wounds passed down as legacy, when you stop colluding with silence, hypocrisy, or distorted family patterns, you are not simply living differently. You are challenging the very foundation of the collective unconscious. Jung said, the collective unconscious will mobilize all forces to pull the deviant back onto the orbit. That is why your transformation is often unwelcome and punished by collective turning away. And then you hear things like, "You've changed," spoken as if it were a mistake. a betrayal. But according to Jung, what truly happens is you have removed the mask. The mask Jung called the persona, the social shell we use to fit in and hide behind. Most people mistake that mask for their true self. They live so long in the role that they forget it is only a role. So when you step out of the mask, when you no longer repeat others' expectations, you do not just change, you collapse the image that people once built to cope with you. And that, for many, is a psychological shock, a death, not of you, but of the illusion they once assigned to you. Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." But not everyone is ready to face that fear. So they do not hate you, they just have not yet learned to love themselves. And you, in your awakening, become the reminder they want to avoid. And this is one of Carl Jung's most pivotal insights, a discovery that will help you understand why your inner growth makes others so deeply uneasy. Jung stated that every human being carries within them two opposing elements: anima, the feminine principle within a man's soul, and animus, the masculine principle within a woman's soul. However, society does not encourage balance. It programs us from an early age to suppress half of our being. Men are not allowed to be soft, and women are not allowed to be strong. But when you begin to integrate both opposing poles, when you can be strong without becoming closed, gentle without losing yourself, when you are both nurturing and protective, you are no longer a fragmented version of yourself. You become whole. And it is precisely that wholeness that exposes the rejected parts in others. You become a mirror reflecting the division they are trying to hide. Jung once wrote, "People will attack those traits in others which they are forbidden to express in themselves." Your presence is not hurtful. It only awakens what they have locked away in the dark. But there is an even deeper layer, what Jung called the transcendent function. He discovered that true psychological maturity does not come from choosing between right or wrong, but from the ability to endure the tension between opposites without rushing to resolve it. When you can love without clinging, forgive while maintaining distance, be open while still knowing how to say no, you are moving beyond binary thinking and reaching a level of consciousness he called transcendence. It is the state where the inner self is no longer split, where you no longer act from old programming, no longer react unconsciously, but emerge as a being deeply aware of itself. And because of that, you become unpredictable, because you no longer fit into any familiar mold. You have stepped off the map, and that terrifies them, because if you can be that free, then they are forced to face the chains they still wear. And this is what Carl Jung said, a truth that will change the way you see everyone who once turned their back on you. Jung once observed, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But he also warned that this privilege comes with a cost, the loss of everyone who was only attached to your false self. The people who hate you now, they are not reacting to who you have become. They are reacting to the person they themselves are too afraid to become. Your healing journey is forcing them to confront the psychological stagnation within themselves. And instead of using that discomfort as a catalyst for growth, they use it as an excuse to attack you. According to Carl Jung, the path of individuation, becoming the truest version of yourself, is not merely a personal effort, but a sacred calling, a soul's mission on the journey back to its origin. And the cold stares, the criticisms, the rejection you're facing, they are not signs that you've lost your way. They are sacred markers that you are on the right path, the only path worth walking, the path back to yourself. Jung once said, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and remove all the barriers you have built against it." And you have done that. You've dared to face your shadow. You've risen above every expectation, every label, every projection the world has placed upon you. You are no longer living by someone else's script, but by the symphony of your own soul. And because of that, they can no longer tolerate your presence, because your presence exposes the emptiness within them, the place they have not yet dared to touch. So the question is no longer, why do they hate you? But rather, are you strong enough to keep blooming, even when no one applauds you? Because as Jung emphasized, psychological evolution is never a celebrated parade. It is a solitary journey where you must be brave enough to become yourself, even if you have to walk alone. If this awakening has touched your soul, share it with those who are also yearning to uncover the truth. And if you found value in today's journey, join us at Mind and Meaning, where every step toward self-discovery is honored and celebrated. Subscribe to the channel to continue opening the door of awareness and to never walk alone on the path back to your true self.